sec. All right.
Okay.
And that's good.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Pete, Jane O'Brien, BBC News. You are still fourth among the top tier. What do you need to do to come through?
Well, what we're seeing is it's a very fluid race. There's definitely no other campaign I would want to trade places with. But we've got to keep our heads down and put in the work with an underdog mentality, even though we're in the top tier. And what we're seeing is a lot of voters, some of whom are just now tuning in addition to the ones who've been following the process the whole time. We know we've got a winning message. It's brought us this far. We've got to make sure we're reaching everybody with that message before the voting begins.
Who are you targeting? Who are you targeting?
I'm targeting the hearts and minds of voters in the early states.
I spoke to those protesters after they left. They also protested against former Vice President Biden. They acknowledged you signed the pledge, but they said you then had a fundraiser with a guy called Craig Hall, who funds infrastructure for fossil fuels, and they said it was at a wine cave or a wine something. What did it give your reaction?
My reaction is that I have a climate policy that's going to get us carbon neutral by the middle of the century and starts on day one with aggressive action. And this is personal for me. As the youngest candidate running for president, I will be personally impacted by America's success or failure in dealing with the climate issue. So I respect the issues that they're raising. I share the goal of making sure that we deal with this, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that we can. But one thing we also know is that we're going up against a president who will pull out all of the stops to remain in power and to block any meaningful action on climate change. We can't go into that fight with a hand.
As the closest moderate, Pete, to Joe Biden, what do you need to do to distinguish yourself from him? We've seen what Warren and Sanders have been doing, and some people have found that to be too negative.
Well, what I'm offering is just a different perspective, a chance to turn the page, and coming from outside of Washington, coming from a new generation, coming from literally living in a middle-class neighborhood in the American Midwest, I think just allows me to bring a different outlook to the campaign, but also to the White House. And I think that's what's going to succeed in defeating Donald Trump, but also help us prepare for the 21st century challenges on issues from national security to climate that are going to dominate the agenda for the next president.
Still pretty close here in New Hampshire. How do you break ahead of the field? Latest polls have you, I think, at 2?
It's close, it's fluid, and I think it's going to stay that way all the way until the bell rings. So our job is to make sure that we're continuing to connect with voters. And, of course, it's not just about what I'm doing, what I'm saying, but making sure that our ground game and our organization continues to be firing on all cylinders. We have amazing organizers. They've come from all walks of life. It's been really encouraging to see how the communities have adopted them in many ways, and continuing to keep volunteers motivated and reach out. I think that's going to be our edge going into those final days.
Mayor Pete, come next week, the trail is going to have many of your top rivals in the Senate dealing with that impeachment trial. What kind of advantage does that give you?
Well, all I know is that we've got to keep our head down and keep doing the work, and I'm sure every campaign will figure out its strategy, but our strategy is to make sure that the message reaches everybody, including a lot of folks who may not have heard it yet. It can be hard to believe with all the noise and the fuss in early states, but the truth is some folks have just plain been too busy to follow the twists and turns of the nominating contest. They are just now tuning in, and we've got to make sure we reach them.
But do you plan to pay attention to the trial? Are you going to be watching the proceedings happen?
The impeachment trial is an important, unfortunate, and very serious moment in American history. And so, of course, like all Americans, I will be watching and hoping that the Senate will do its job and deliver accountability.